The car skids to a stop. Gravel sprays. Doors fly open. Something isn't right. They saw it just seconds ago, a tattered cardboard box, abandoned at the edge of the road. At first it looked like trash, but then they heard it. A whimper, faint, desperate. The father moves fast, but the closer he gets, the worse it feels. The box is beaten, damp, sealed shut with layers of old tape. It doesn't feel right. His fingers hesitate over the lid. The air feels thick, heavy. His gut twists. Something is wrong. He presses his ear to the cardboard. A sound. A tiny, ragged breath. His pulse kicks. He rips the tape and pries open the lid, and his breath vanishes. Inside, a tiny, shaking puppy. Matted fur, ribs pressing against paper-thin skin, wide, terrified eyes. But it's not just the puppy. There's something else. What happens next will haunt them forever. The box sits alone, battered and torn, at the edge of the empty highway. The family car rolls past. Then the sound. A whimper, soft, weak, barely there. Tires screech as the car jerks to a stop. The father is out first, moving fast. The mother calls after him, but he's already there, kneeling beside the box. The kids press against the window, watching, waiting. His hands hover over the lid. His gut twists. Something feels wrong. He lifts the flap, and his breath catches. Inside, curled up, shaking violently, a tiny, filthy puppy. Matted fur, bones visible beneath its thin skin, eyes wide, frozen in fear. The mother gasps. The kids stare, silent. Then the father sees it. The cardboard is covered in jagged, uneven letters, scratched in a hurry. A plea, a warning. The ink is smudged, like it was written with shaking hands. Please find his brother. The father stares, his pulse hammering. The mother grips the car door. Her voice trembles. Brother? A new kind of fear grips them. He looks back down at the weak, helpless puppy. There was another, somewhere out there, alone, dying. The mother grabs her phone. The father scoops up the puppy, heart racing. They don't even speak. They already know. They have to find him, and fast. The car speeds toward the nearest animal shelter, tires kicking up dust as the family races against time. The mother holds the trembling puppy close, whispering reassurances, but its tiny body remains stiff, its breaths shallow. The father grips the wheel, jaw clenched, mind spinning with one thought, where is the brother? At the shelter, staff rush forward as soon as they see the puppy. A vet takes him instantly, scanning for a chip. Nothing. No collar, no ID, no sign of where he came from. The handwritten message is placed on the counter, and silence falls as everyone stares at it. Please find his brother. The words feel heavier now. Urgent. Shelter workers move fast, checking records, scanning lost pet reports, calling nearby vets. The town is searching, but it's not enough. Hours slip by. Nothing. Calls come in, false alarms. People see strays, but none of them match. Volunteers start checking ditches. Some whisper, maybe it's too late. The first puppy, recovering in the shelter, barely sleeps. Every sound makes him perk up, searching, waiting. He knows. The family refuses to stop. The father drives for hours, stopping at gas stations, showing the box's message to anyone who will listen. No one has seen the brother, until a woman at a diner pauses. Her brow furrows. I think I heard something near the old bridge 2 nights ago. Sounded like a dog crying. The father's heart slams against his ribs. Time is running out. A puppy this young, alone for 3 days. No food, no warmth, no chance. Day 3. The search is starting to feel hopeless. Volunteers comb through wooded areas, peek under porches, and scan ditches along back roads. But there's nothing. No paw prints, no sightings, no clues. The weak puppy, now recovering at the shelter, is eating, growing stronger, but something is missing. He barely sleeps, ears twitching at every distant sound, eyes scanning every face that passes. He's waiting. He knows. His brother is still out there. The family refuses to give up. The father retraces their drive, stopping at gas stations and small businesses, asking if anyone has seen a second puppy. Nothing. Then, just as exhaustion starts to set in, a new lead. A woman at a diner remembers hearing a strange noise near the old bridge outside town 2 nights ago, like a dog crying. It was late. She didn't stop. But now she's certain. The father doesn't hesitate. He jumps back into the car, hands gripping the wheel, hope flickering in his chest. He speeds toward the bridge, scanning the overgrown brush, heart pounding. Then he hears it. So soft, so fragile, it almost disappears into the wind. He stops breathing. Listens. Please, let me be right. A tiny whimper, a cry, a tiny, desperate whimper coming from beneath the bridge. He lunges down the embankment, slipping on loose gravel. His flashlight beam cuts through the darkness beneath the bridge, illuminating a small, shivering shape curled up in a pile of wet leaves. Then he sees it. The brother, frail, motionless, barely breathing. The father's chest tightens. A tiny, curled-up figure, half buried under wet leaves, not moving. His stomach lurches. Is he too late? He drops to his knees, reaching out, voice breaking. "Hey, buddy, please, just hold on." The puppy flinches, a tiny, barely there breath. The father doesn't think. He scoops him up, tucks him into his jacket, and runs. He's too weak, too cold, too tired of fighting. The father scoops him up, feeling the rapid flutter of his heartbeat beneath matted fur, still alive, but just barely. He pulls off his jacket, wraps the puppy inside, and sprints back to the car. Gravel flies as he peels onto the highway, one hand gripping the wheel, the other steadying the fragile pup beside him. He calls the shelter, voice sharp with urgency. "I've got him. He's alive. I'm coming now." The woman on the other end chokes back a gasp. The puppy in the shelter, the one they'd been nursing back to health. He suddenly perks up, tail twitching, eyes locked on the door. He knows his brother is coming. The father bursts through the shelter doors, his boots hitting the tile with urgency. The bundle in his arms barely moves, barely breathes. A staff member gasps and calls out, and within seconds a vet and 2 techs rush forward, hands ready, eyes wide with worry. He gently lays the tiny, cold, fragile body onto the exam table. The pup doesn't react. No struggle, no fight, just a slow, weak rise and fall of his chest. They work fast. A stethoscope presses against his ribs. A thermometer is inserted. Warm towels are wrapped around his frail body as a needle slides into his tiny leg, delivering life-saving fluids. A tech murmurs something about his body temperature being dangerously low. Every second counts. The family stands frozen, watching, waiting. Then something stirs. A small movement in the corner of the room. The first puppy. For days he's barely lifted his head, barely reacted to anything. But now his nose twitches, his ears perk, his little body stiffens. Something is different. He can sense it. Slowly he lifts his head. His eyes lock onto the exam table. His body sways, still weak, but he's staring. His breathing changes, shallow, quick. He knows. Then he moves. His legs shake beneath him as he wobbles forward, tail flickering, nose twitching, searching. A tiny broken whimper escapes his throat. It's a cry, desperate, relieved, pleading. The room goes silent. A vet tech covers her mouth. The mother clutches her chest. Then another sound. A second whimper. Software, fragile, from the table. The second puppy stirs. A slow, weak movement. His tiny head turns, sluggish, eyes barely focusing. But the moment his gaze lands on his brother, something shifts. His entire body trembles, but he pushes forward. His legs shouldn't be able to hold him. He shouldn't be able to move. But he does, inch by inch. Dragging himself forward, paws slipping over the blanket, every ounce of energy pushing him towards something. Someone he knows. One step, then another. His little tail gives the weakest flick. Then he collapses, burying his tiny face into his brother's fur. A shaky breath, a soft, contented sigh. He's safe. He's home. The first puppy nuzzles closer, his tail flicking ever so slightly, his body pressing protectively against his brother's side, as if to say, "I found you. I won't lose you again." The mother wipes her eyes. A shelter worker blinks away tears. The vet swallows hard and murmurs, "I've never seen anything like this." They weren't just two abandoned puppies. They were brothers, fighters, survivors. And now they would never be alone again. The days that follow, a new beginning. The second puppy is still weak, but with warmth, food, and love, he grows stronger. Every day his legs get steadier, his tail wags a little more. But he never leaves his brother's side. They eat together, sleep curled up against each other. If one moves, the other follows. Their bond is unshakable. Shelter staff can't explain it. Vets say it's rare, but anyone watching them knows the truth. They always knew they'd find each other again. But now, there's only one last question. Where do they go next? An answer. They never expected. One afternoon, the shelter doors swing open. The family that found them walks in. The father kneels, watching the puppies play for the first time, truly happy, tails wagging, paws tapping excitedly against the floor. The kids are already laughing, already begging. The mother looks at the father, a soft smile forming. "We never planned on a dog," she says, "let alone two." The father watches the two brothers nuzzle each other, completely inseparable. He already knows the answer. Some things are just meant to be. The final goodbye and the first day of forever. The paperwork is signed, the leashes are clipped. As the shelter doors swing open, two tiny figures trot side by side, never apart, never alone. They weren't just rescued. They fought for each other. They held on. And now, they'll never have to fight alone again. Some stories stay with you, and this is one of them. These two puppies were never meant to be apart, and thanks to one family's decision to stop that night, they not only survived, they found each other again. But now, I want to hear from you. What would you have done if you found that box on the side of the road? Let me know in the comments below. V. And if this story moved you, if it made you believe in the power of fate, love, or second chances, hit that like button. It helps more people see this story and reminds us all that kindness can change lives. Make sure you're subscribed for more incredible rescue stories, and I'll see you in the next one.